This award celebrates visionary leaders doing extraordinary work to strengthen East African communities. This award goes out to people who do work that confronts societal and civic issues, address health or environmental concerns, or promote art and humanities. This award goes out to Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali was born and raised in Somalia. He received his MPH in Global Health from the University of Washington in 2008, in Global Studies in 2008. He co-founded the Somali Health Board, an organization that is established to improve communication between Somali communities and health providers and agencies. Muhammad recently received National Community Preparedness Hero Award from FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, in 2012, and White House Champions of Change in 2013. Please welcome Muhammad Ali to the stage.
Thank you. My first time receiving such an award locally, so this is really... I'm deeply honored to have been chosen this Community Leadership Award from an organization that has been doing a great job with cultural appropriate responsive education. I'm familiar with many people who are community leaders that are sitting in this room, who have contributed, who have done a great contribution to the Washington State's communities. Without false modesty, I feel there are many community leaders who are also worthy of this award. However, I realize it is only one, and that belongs to me this year. So I'm sincerely grateful for the recognition of this recognition. I should admit, I was a bit shocked when I learned this recognition. I knew I was coming to this event as a member to this table, Somali Health Board table, but the leadership and the board members of the Culturally Appropriate Responsive Education leadership team decided to put me on to work for an acceptance speech and preparing and standing in front of this big audience. I'm so pleased because it's one of my daughter's dreams. My daughter, who participates in a We Act club in her high school, she envisioned that one day, when for me standing in front of many people accepting an award recognizing my qualities and my achievements. So today, you are present at the fulfillment of that dream, of my daughter's dream, and I can't express enough my excitement and inspiration with this award. Doing community organizing and mobilizing and empowering communities like immigrants and refugees is not an easy job. And it's not something that I have ever imagined doing it while I was growing up in Somalia. But we are here tonight in Seattle. We Somali immigrants are resilient people. We find strength in our families, in our social bonds, in our faith. We have survived wars, refugee camps, transitions, moving around, and we are putting our forces together to thrive in this North Hemisphere cold climate And today's award is a symbol of that success. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Muhammad Ali, and also the Somali Health Board, who I can proudly say that I have many friends in it, and it's an amazing work they're doing. Please, they have only been here for a very short time, but they've had a huge impact. Thank you so much for the work you do for our community. And now, I would like to call to the stage one of the co-founders and executive director of the Care Center, Munira Mohammed, who has a few words to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Fatima, and thank you all for coming to our fundraiser and dinner. I actually really don't have much to say because everything I wanted to say has been said. So I don't want to make you guys feel like we're repeating the same thing. But I really want to thank all of you for coming and showing your support to this amazing organization that Ubax and I co-founded. And now we have Fatima, who is also joined Care Center. And as you can see, the women are taking over, I guess, in our community. And it's fun, right? So thank you so much. Care Center has been a passion that was started by two parents. At the time when Ubax and I started Care Center, really none of our kids started in school. But we know there was a need. We're like, okay, in a year, my dad will be in kindergarten. Ubax's son, in 2 years following with my other son, would be in kindergarten. So where are we taking them? How are we going to be able to help? And as young immigrant, refugee child who grew up in this country, I knew the struggles that I faced when I was in school. I didn't have anywhere I could go. And if I tell you guys where I grew up, you'll probably be shocked, but I grew up in North Dakota. You've all probably seen the Fargo movie. I grew up in Fargo, North Dakota. So you can imagine, there was hardly any Africans there. Imagine Somali. So I knew what the struggles we were facing were, and when I moved here, I was lucky enough, 2 weeks into my move to Washington, I met Ubax, who had this passion, and she shared it with me, and I was like, you know what? I'm on board, let's do it. At that point, I really did not know what I was signing myself up for, but it's been something that I'm proud of, and I can say the 70, 80, 100 kids, or the 30, or the 15 that show up to our program, and the parents that come to our program became part of our family. We adopted them, we see them as our own kids. We want each one of them to have successful moment in their school and in their life. And we see that some of the videos you see in our kids, that when they come to the program, they were 4th graders, 5th graders, and now they're high school, and they're taller than us. You know, they're men, and we are proud of this program, and I really appreciate the support you guys gave us, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Munira, for that wonderful story of how Care Center started. And right now, it's time for our keynote presenter, which will be Taslim Qasim. Taslim Qasim is the tenured faculty member of the education program at Shoreline Community College. Professor Qasim received her master's degree from the University of Colorado in educational psychology. She's also the president of Prestige Worldwide Enterprises. That consists of 3 subsidiaries: Prestige Education Associates, an educational development organization that designs, That consists of 3 subsidiaries: Prestige Educational Associates, an educational development organization that designs education models in the U.S. and abroad; Prestige Education Foundation, which provides study abroad opportunities for students from underdeveloped countries to study in the United States; and an alternative enrichment program to address the academic gap and discipline disproportionately for students of color in the U.S., and Prestige African Art Collection, focused on the purchase and sale of authentic artifacts from over 20 African countries. The majority of the proceeds from the sale of the artifacts are used to help build hospitals and schools in villages from which they come from. Taslim has a high success rate as an architect of education models and grant writer of several for-profit and non-profit school projects. She has developed curricula for over 18 courses in education, special education, bilingual and bicultural education, infusing culturally relevant and anti-bias practices into learning environments. Taslim was a regional administrator for California County with a population of 2 million, and while there, she piloted one of the first individualized family services program for infants and toddlers with special needs. Some of her earlier experiences were psychological consultant for Head Start, behavioral specialist for alternative public schools, development specialist for children's hospitals, as well as family therapist for a community mental health organization. Taslim is also a multiple honoree in Who's Who Among American Teachers. Without further ado, please welcome Taslim to the stage.
Assalamu alaikum. I think I needed to rewrite that. I'm a little like, oh my goodness. Should have been a little bit more modest. I'm honored to be invited here by CARE. After looking at the video and listening to some of the speakers and actually looking around the room and seeing so many young people, I just feel very privileged right now to be able to deliver this keynote. I really want to thank the Culturally Appropriate and Responsive Education Center for inviting me, and I'm honored to be among leaders and families who are doing work in education and equity and social justice. Now, you shouldn't invite me to be a keynote because I do not speak to tender sensibilities. Said good, someone said good. Our children and youth need courage and resilience and strength and a strong faith to face the inequities and inequalities in their schools. Each of us must rally our families and communities to interrupt the school to prison pipeline. I can't even say that phrase without emotionally and passionately feeling the pain of even having to, that has been coined in our nation. It has derailed the opportunities to fair education, future employment, and the ability to one day our children and our youth to help their own families prosper. Together, we must find a solution. We can no longer accept the practices of segregation, suspension, expulsion, dropout, and incarceration. So I've been asked to speak about the opportunity gap. For it is clear, some of our children and youth are denied opportunities. What does the opportunity gap look like? A teacher greeting a preschooler with a scowl instead of a smile. It's a first grader asked only to read in English and never in her home language. It's Amir suspended for 10 days for the same behavior the teacher told Josh to stop. The opportunity gap is a school system that has no understanding that Amir Abdullah is the prince with his father's name, and Amina is at peace and secure in her hijab. There are cultural values and families' traditions so important that if ridiculed and teased and bullied, could drastically change the course of a child's life, especially if the abusers are adults. It is critical that we remember the importance of this as we advocate for, teach, and guide our children and youth to stand up for their right to identify with family and culture. To the East African community, and some of you from a war-torn country, I am humbled to deliver this speech. I call it the opportunity gap versus faith. As poverty grows in families and teachers and students fear increased gun violence and parents become disillusioned in the ability of the school to teach their children, we know there is a future need for us to act. Inshallah. The American dream is that if you work hard and you play by the rules, you should be given a chance to go as far as your God-given ability will take you. We want our young people to have that dream. We want them to believe that their schools are safe, that there is a rule of law, respect for their differences, nonviolence, fair discipline, facilities and resources for all students to succeed. The opportunity gap is based on unfair public policies, discriminatory structures, and inadequate resources. The opportunity gap wants hard-working families to believe they are broken. The opportunity gap wants concerned parents to believe they are uncaring and incompetent. The opportunity gap wants eager to learn students to believe they are lazy and failures. But you know what is broken? An education system that cannot help all its students acquire knowledge and skills for academic success. You know what is uncaring? Too many teachers and principals and others who make some children feel inferior in order for other children to have a false sense of superiority. And you know what is lazy? The institution called American education, for it has the responsibility to end the inequities that cause that opportunity gap in the first place. Families are responsible for helping their children and grandchildren study and learn. We know that. But are they responsible for the harsh, punitive treatment of Black and brown students? Are they responsible for the biased assessments that misclassify our children as emotionally disturbed or mentally retarded? Are they responsible for placing white students in honor classes and Black students in detention? Did parents ask teachers to have low expectations for their children? Did parents ask educators to remain culturally incompetent after years? No, I've been teaching cultural competence since 1983. Did the parents ask educators to remain culturally incompetent after years of multicultural training? If families and communities are supposed to believe that they caused the opportunity achievement gap, I'm here to tell you tonight, don't believe it. Don't believe it. It is difficult and painful to accept, but let's all admit it, that some children and youth, some of our young men sitting here today and young ladies who just got out of high school, just got out of their secondary education, are viewed as failures through no fault of their own. Some because they're homeless or live in poverty, because they were raised by a single low-income mother, or their race and ethnicity is different from mainstream culture, because of their language differences, because they're immigrants, because they have a different religion or have disabilities. When these children stand up for their right to be treated fairly, they are mistreated, punished, labeled, planned out, pushed out, and dropped out of their schools. So here is what we should think about tonight. Can our children and youth receive fair treatment in school? It is true for some children. They are given quality teachers, warm schools in the winter, cool schools in the summer. They have the current textbooks, state-of-the-art equipment, an abundance of educational resources. Their parents have an open door policy to go to their schools, non-abusive disciplinary actions, high expectations from their teachers. They are in culturally, linguistically harmonious learning environments. Nothing special, just what we should expect for all students. However, there appears to be other children and youth in the same public school system who have a different reality. We even give them special names. We call them at risk, underachievers, disadvantaged, disabled, traumatized. And they rarely receive the school amenities of the first group. Instead, they have to endure the stereotype threats, the lack of basic necessity for educational settings, poor quality teaching, dilapidated school buildings, outdated textbooks, old equipment, closed door policies to their parents, unfair disciplinary actions, and low expectations from their teachers. Instead of the amenities of the first group, they receive the inequities, yet many still succeed. The child that began preschool, social, optimistic, energetic, cooperative, inquisitive, helpful, but somehow by third grade became the problem. The student who confronts the barriers in the school. The middle schoolers tired of reading exclusively about the contributions of only the Anglo culture, so they decide to write their own history. The adolescent girl that school barely affirmed her meaningful existence, but she graduated anyway. The student subjected to limited instruction, but continues to speak Arabic, Somali, and English. These students should be called by new names: courageous, audacious, strong, tenacious, patient, sturdy, irrepressible. Our children and youth need diversity. What do I mean? The state of Washington's government that makes the laws and pays for the education consists of only about 5% people of color. The State Board of Education that determines the respect for diversity and culture consists of few people of color. The Department of Early Learning chief officers and administrators are all white. Thrive for 5 Washington Board of Directors are white except for one black male. Over 80% of teachers in the U.S. are white. 80% of students who graduated last year in 2013 with a BA in teaching are white. The principals in the U.S. are white, 80%. Until there are diversity with teachers and principals and lawmakers and others, children and youth from culturally and linguistically different backgrounds will not have a fair and equitable chance. We must advocate for our students. My financial resources must come directly to the communities where the students live, instead to the people who know very little about them. The community has the desire to change the educational inequities. The community has the personal connection to treat every child with decency. The community has the empathic arousal when a Muslim father demands respect for his children's religious culture. There is a sense of community when the people within the community corrects the wrongs of the community. The community has the experiential knowledge and skills to be successful. The community has the altruism to serve the families in the community. And the community has the urgency of now to correct the problem as soon as possible. The community has the vision for the future. And it is the community that has the spiritual belief. That the opportunity gap can close. Those outside the community, they can help, but will not be successful. They just don't know enough. After all, they're outsiders. Okay? Where does diversity exist in education, in our children? In the 21st century, the most diverse segment of the U.S. population is school-aged children. 1/2 of children under 5 in the United States are children of color. In less than 36 years, there will be no racial or ethnic group that will be the true majority in the United States. By 2050, the Hispanic population will increase by 167%. The Asian population by 213%. The Black population by 46%, and the white population by 1%. By 2050, whites will make up 46.3% of the population in the United States. In the last decade in Washington State, whites increased by 4.8%, blacks by 26%, Asians by 59%, and Hispanics by 71%. In the beginning of this century, the 21st century, 4 million school children spoke another language within their home. Yet there is still too few high-quality ESL dual language programs. Second language learners are misclassified, they're stigmatized, they're segregated, and too often victims of poor teaching due to the lack of skills and salaries to bilingual teachers. The segregation of ESL has contributed to reduced diversity in classrooms and deprive English-only speakers of the opportunity to acquire a 21st century skill, the ability to speak more than one language. Yes, the opportunity gap hurts all our children, all of the U.S. students. The U.S. is 37th in the world in math and below the top 20th countries in reading and science. The bar was too low. Do you have a need for change? Do you have a need for improvement? Do you have the desire for culturally relevant, anti-bias teaching from early learning to 12th grade. Do you want the options? For example, community-run charter schools instead of corporate-owned. Do you want all students to speak other language? Do you want all students to have diverse teachers and principals? As a teacher at Shoreline Community College, my students are primarily white. I've been teaching there 15 years, and three times I had white students from Eastern Washington come up to my desk and say, Professor Kasem, my parents do not want me to be taught by an African American. And each time I said to them, okay, but you're gonna miss a great class. And I didn't lose any of them. Do you want all students to have diverse teachers and principals? Do you recognize science and math is important, but art, nutrition, and fitness is too? Do you believe in equity? For equality means nothing if some students get a horse to ride in a grass field while others get a snowmobile. And can we all agree? Can we all agree that the school to prison pipeline will not be tolerated? Then, if God's willing, our children and youth will have all the opportunities they deserve. Asante Sana.
Thank you so much, Professor Taslim Kasim. Please don't ever say that you have to be more modest. Your inspiration, your achievement inspires us and motivates us. And for those who don't, who are frightened by it, well, that's their loss. Thank you so much. I would like to give the next award for our organization. As we were talking about, this organization exemplifies the next step. Not only do we want our youth and ourselves to be citizens here in our home adopted countries, but also back home. This organization exemplifies that. They are made of a group of friends who have similar attitudes and hopes and dreams for their home. They mostly work in the regions of central and southwestern regions in Somalia, which are Gedo and Galgaduud. This organization is called ADE, African Development for Education and Health Services. This organization was started in 2009, and since then they have built a couple of schools in some of the regions, I think 3. And the chairman, Abdulwali Mohammed, who's also one of the founders, will tell us more about it. Please come to the stage. Thank you.
It's an honor to stand here before you tonight. Our organization is receiving an award, but I want to kind of go off topic, to be frank. I would like to give an invisible award to Karen.